Have you ever noticed that the emotions in Inside Out have a structure very similar to protons and electrons from physics class? Or that the logo of The Incredibles is subtly scattered throughout their movies? We've discovered these and other sensational details hidden in films, cartoons, and animations that practically no one has ever noticed. And we've gathered them here just to tell you about them. To find out everything, just like everyone else, stick around until the end of the video. Monsters University characters. If there's one thing that defines Pixar, it's undoubtedly their quality, and this is reflected in the attention to detail the company puts into creating a film. For example, in Monsters University, Pixar created nothing less than 400 characters just for the film, each with very specific details and different shapes. Most of them acted, in quotes, as extras, like university students, while others were part of the fraternity Sully and Mike join. The skin of emotions. Another great example of Pixar's attention to detail is how the animation company decided to construct the structure of each of the emotions that inhabit the characters' minds in Inside Out. The film's director, Pete Docter, said that this was one of the most laborious parts of the character creation team. This is because Pete Docter demanded that they be entirely made of microparticles, since, in a way, this is the origin of emotions. They arise in people's minds from the moment of birth, so they wouldn't be like us humans with skin and bones. This was certainly one of the great insights of this sensational film, bringing even more richness to Riley's story and her emotions. Millions of hairs. Returning to the Monsters, Inc. franchise, another incredible detail we can notice in Mike and Sullivan's film is the amount of fur Sullivan has. For example, to give you an idea, in the first film released in 2001, Pixar animators covered Sullivan's body with 1.1 million hairs, which is quite a lot. What's even more incredible is that in the second film, Monsters University, Pixar thought this was too little and decided to increase Sullivan's fur to 5.5 million hairs, 5 times more. That's a lot of hair. Incredible symbols. The Incredibles is one of the films with the greatest attention to detail from Pixar's old guard of animations. For example, when Mr. Incredible arrives at the church where he is going to marry Elastigirl, if you look closely, you'll notice that the church's stained glass window subtly features the film's symbol, an eye with a round dot on top. Man, this detail is so cool. Chief Wiggum and his son? The Simpsons weren't always Disney, but what matters is that they are now, so they make it onto our list. This is an old theory from The Simpsons, which says that Ralph has nothing to do with his father, Chief Wiggum. Indeed, he has no resemblance to his father, that's a fact. But at the same time, Ralph looks a lot like Eddie, the cop who works with Chief Wiggum, especially in features and hair. Even the Simpsons themselves, in season 34, have a scene where the chief confronts his wife and says this, with Eddie appearing holding hands with Ralph, calling him his son. But this episode is not considered canonical to the show, meaning the theory is still a theory. Furthermore, when we see Ralph in the future as a cop, we see that his hair has changed, turning blue just like Chief Wiggum's, leaving everyone even more confused. I guess that was the intention of the animators. And if you also don't know who Ralph's father is, subscribe to the channel. You'll still not know, but at least you'll have the chance to see incredible videos. Carl and Andy are relatives. Now here's something that's quite impressive and that many people used to create theories. Did you know that there's some connection between Up's Carl and Toy Story's Andy? Well, there's a scene in Andy's room in Toy Story 3 where you can see a letter identical to the one hanging on the mirror in Carl and Ellie's house. And if you look closely, you'll notice 2 amazing things. The first is that Carl and Ellie's names are actually written there, meaning there really is a connection between the 2 families. The second is the fact that you can see for the first time the address of Up's flying house, which is in a city called Bloomington. With this confirmation, it's really hard not to say they're related. Tarzan and surfing. If we go back a bit in time, we'll remember the sensational Disney film from 1999, Tarzan. And one of the scenes that most marked those who watched the film was the moment when the king of the jungle slides through the tree trunks of the African forests. This incredible scene is inspired by one of the world's most famous extreme sports, surfing. Glenn Keane, one of the film's animation directors, revealed that the idea came after noticing his son's increasing interest in surfing. So he decided to incorporate it into the animation, and it turned out great. If you haven't watched this movie yet, you can do so without fear. It's really good. Pixar Ball. Every Disney and Pixar fan knows about those standard Easter eggs from the company that appear in all their movies, like the famous A113, the Pizza Planet truck, and the Pixar Ball. In Incredibles 2, it was a bit tricky to find some of them, but especially the Pixar ball. However, nothing stays hidden forever, right? And we finally found the ball. When we see the scene where Elastigirl's benefactor is quite surprised by the villain Screenslaver's tank, which he sees on the street, we can see that in the middle of the hubcap of his limousine, there's a small red star on a yellow background. That's right, folks. It's exactly that. The reference to the Pixar ball. This one really almost went unnoticed. The Godfather reference. Soul is a completely different movie from all the others we know from Disney, and it has some really cool details that many people didn't get to see since the movie wasn't released in theaters. For example, when we see Joe, the protagonist, falling into the manhole to his near-tragic end. The detail isn't even on Joe in this scene, but on the black van in the background. Notice that the company name stamped on it is Retlaw, and Retlaw is exactly Walter backward. And Walter Disney is simply the founder of the greatest entertainment company in history, the Disney we all love. A beautiful reference, I must admit. Hiccup and Astrid's coats of arms. Moving a bit away from Disney and into the competition, we notice two incredible details in How to Train Your Dragon 3, and both are in the moment of Hiccup and Astrid's wedding. If you look closely, you'll notice that the golden medallions Hiccup wears feature the image of Toothless, while Astrid's medallions feature the face of Stormfly, her dragon companion, forming a beautiful couple with beautiful coats of arms. And if you're a Disney fan but also enjoy How to Train Your Dragon, comment down below, #Toothless. Historical scene. The second detail is right behind the couple and the elder conducting the ceremony. If you look closely, you'll notice that on the stone totem behind everyone, there's an image. And if we look even closer, we'll notice that on the stone is carved that iconic scene from the franchise where Hiccup meets Toothless and begins their friendship with the Night Fury. Odd cactus. Speaking again of the first Incredibles movie, another very cool detail can be noticed in that historical scene where Bob's boss is giving him a sermon. We can see that in the background, on top of the cabinet, there's a small cactus. So far, so good. It would just be another decoration item in the scene. The interesting thing is that the cactus has exactly the same shape as Bob's boss's head. That's certainly no coincidence. It must be an indication that the owner of the insurance company is prickly and thorny, definitely. Memorable phrase. In the same scene, we can see that on the pencils Bob's boss is pointing at, there's a phrase that appears briefly. It says, "Your life is in our hands," which refers to the company's field, which is an insurance company, but also refers to the ideal for which the Incredibles family members fight and live, as heroes, fighting to save citizens. Song title. Speaking of written references, going back to the very beginning of the Soul movie, if we look at the name of the song behind Joe, written on the board while he's teaching the kids, we can see that the name of the song is Things Aren't What They Used to Be. This was an intentional reference left by the creators of the movie who wanted to make a reference to the lifestyle Joe was leading, without much desire and taste for life, as in the past, facing what many call professional disillusionment. After all, he was a talented musician teaching children. Porcine father. And now, we saved for last the smallest, darkest, and most unbelievable detail of all. In 1933, Disney released a short called The Three Little Pigs, telling the children's tale version that everyone knows. The detail is that one of the company's animators had at least a somewhat macabre sense of humor. This is because while the brothers are having fun and dancing, there's a sinister picture behind them where we can see a sausage on a frame. And not only that, it's written "Father" underneath, which means that at some point the father of the three little pigs was slaughtered, ground, and turned into sausage. More than that, the children even took the remains of their father and put them in their living room. If that doesn't sound bizarre to you, I don't know what would. Of course, this may have happened after the old man had already passed away, somewhat like how cremation works nowadays. But still, it would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? These were the 15 small details we found and sorted out today to show you in sensational movies and animations. And let me tell you, some of them were really hard to notice, but we knew you'd like them. We also think you'll like these two videos we picked out for you. Just pick one and click. See you soon!